Welcome everyone to the very first webinar as part of the Kentucky Horticulture Council's Tech Tuesday educational series, kind of a mouthful. My name is Danny Zwischenberger, and I'm the Special Projects Coordinator for the Kentucky Hort Council. And I'm excited to have y'all here for this kickoff. And I hope you will tune in to future Tuesdays as well, as we have been developing an awesome lineup of speakers, live demonstrations, videos, infographics, and more, all with the goal of providing resources for growers who are interested in kind of taking their operations to the next level. And this could mean simply incorporating new technological tools into your system, or building new protected growing spaces on your farm, or improving upon structures that you already have. So this series is for everyone, and just make sure that you're keeping an eye out for topics that might pique your interest over the next several weeks and months. We're going to be covering a lot of really interesting topics over the course of the Tech Tuesday series, like greenhouse lighting systems, water and fertility management, hydroponics, aquaponics, greenhouse sensors, automation, and a whole lot more. And a more concrete schedule is in the works, so also stay tuned for a list of these upcoming speakers and other content. I think sometimes the idea of introducing technology just in general can feel intimidating and unattainable when you're already working so hard on already established systems. So the goal of this series is for all of us to familiarize ourselves with what kind of tools are out there, what other growers are using, and what's coming down the pipeline. And as I've been developing a lineup for this series and speaking to so many industry experts, I've gotten really excited to learn alongside y'all and become more comfortable with the idea of incorporating higher levels of tech into my own life and work and sharing those possibilities with others. Before I introduce our speaker today, there's just a couple of logistical things for this meeting. I am recording the session, and you'll be able to find this and all future webinars at the Kentucky Hort Council's YouTube page. And I will send out a link to y'all later on to make sure you can access this session and all of our other Tech Tuesday content down the line. Also, go ahead and let us know if you'd like in the chat who's in the room today. Are you a grower that already works within a controlled environment system? Maybe you have a couple high tunnels, a greenhouse, low tunnels. Maybe you work solely with open field crops. Or perhaps you're here as an ag service provider or extension, or you're just interested in farming or technology. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear from you, and we're happy you're with us today. And if you have any questions for our speaker during the talk, she's going to have a space after she finishes for anyone to ask aloud, but you can also drop those in the chat, and we'll hopefully get to answer as many of those as possible after the presentation. Another thing I want to mention as a kind of disclaimer, throughout the Tech Tuesday series, we will be showcasing a wide variety of tech companies, brands, and products, but the Kentucky Horticulture Council does not endorse any one of them specifically. The main focus of this series is to educate and empower growers, and growers should make purchasing decisions based on the needs of their own operations. So I think that is everything. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce y'all to Jarene Brown of Koppert Biological Systems. Koppert is a company that wants to reestablish a systems approach to agriculture and help growers integrate natural methods to enhance plant resilience, promote sustainable practices, and contribute to a healthier planet. Jarene is a technical sales consultant with Koppert and has been with them going on 3 years now, and is based in Boulder, Colorado. And today, Jarene will be talking to us about using technology to assist growers with an integrated pest management strategy, and how precision pest monitoring and real-time pest detection alerts can help growers take their crop management to the next level. So with that, I will start sharing my screen. And Jarene, feel free to share your screen and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny, for the introduction. Bear with me for 1 second while I share here. All right. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yeah, it looks great.
Perfect. Okay. On top of the introduction that Danny gave, I'll introduce myself as well. Also, first, before I get started, I just want to say thanks to everybody for attending this, and I hope that you have something to take away. My name is Jarene. I'm a technical sales consultant for Koppert. And so what that means is I travel and visit and advise and report. So I have established clients, but I'm always kind of on the lookout for new clients. And I work hand in hand with growers and IPM managers to help them like sustainably control pests in their crop. Um, and so typically I will visit, do a walkthrough, and kind of advise while I'm in there. And then afterwards, I'll write a report and send that to the client. And so they will have that report to look back on to help them move forward and make the best choices in their crop, like pest management wise. So, what is Koppert? We are a biological control company. So, what that means is we sell biological agents for pest control instead of chemical agents. Although we are aware that not everybody has access to using biological agents fully. We are here to help you use like both of those methods together in a way which we call IPM or Integrated Pest Management. So as the like integration of solutions, starting with the most or least damaging solutions possible, all the way up to the strongest, depending on like the level of um, pest issue that you have. So our biological control is down there at the lowest level of damage, or I wouldn't say damage, but like more extreme, the least extreme level of control. So anyway, I sorry for the stuttering and stuff. It's so funny. Like I kind of feel like I'm just talking to my screen right now. So I'm doing my best out here.
We're
Um,
all here. You sound great.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so Koppert, our core values is we partner with nature, we work for growers, we build global networks, keep improving, and we're a family. So I know I have sales in my title. I'm a technical sales consultant, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm not just out here trying to sell a product, right? I am here to work for growers. I want to see growers succeed and help them in the best ways possible. And I think one of my favorite core values is we partner with nature. I like to explain biological control in the way of when you are planting a crop, putting a resource out there into the environment, nature responds to that resource. So you put a huge food source out, and the pests in the natural environment respond to that by coming to feed on that plant. And so, Koppert, with our natural enemies, our biological control agents, we are resetting that balance in that environment. So, comparative to chemicals, when you spray a chemical, you're just trying to eliminate that pest, but they're just going to keep continuing to respond to that resource. Whereas you can establish biological control in your crop and maintain a low threshold without having to completely destroy the natural like biological environment that's going on in there. And then global networks. Koppert is a Dutch company, and we have subsidiaries in over 100 different countries, I believe. And so we are a very tight community, and we learn from each other and experience, which is very helpful. Sometimes I don't know everything, so we definitely work very well together. Okay, and now I'm going to go into a little bit more about like what exactly our products do and what they look like. So besides just biological control, we also have a huge like pollination production. So we use bumblebees in greenhouses. And I guess you could kind of call that technology a little bit. Yeah, we've researched and developed these particular species of bumblebees, Bombus impatiens, here in the US, to help pollinate crops in greenhouses. This is especially important for crops like tomatoes, which you can see here on the slide, because the tomatoes won't fruit without pollination. Um, and so the bees are very efficient pollinators. They're docile enough to be working inside a greenhouse along employees and laborers. Um, and they're just really efficiently able to make a map inside a greenhouse without getting lost or confused. Um, so yeah, these little guys are really helpful. We use them in all different kinds of crops, including outdoor crops, orchard crops like cherries, strawberries, tunnel crops, and like berries, blueberries, blackberries, you name it. And they're just getting more and more popular um, as people have been using them and experiencing them. They're also really great supplement to honeybees outdoors. So if you're an outdoor grower and you use honeybees, bumblebees are great to supplement. They will fly in uh, unfavorable conditions that honeybees don't really enjoy flying in. They typically will stay in their little hive, but bumblebees are a lot more driven. So they, yeah, they're good and as supplementary for outdoors as well. Okay, and then I want to move on to our macro bios real quick. I know there's a lot of information here. Don't worry, I'm not going to quiz you on it. I just wanted to give some examples of some of the biological control agents that we implement. So we sell things from wasps to mites to beetles, and then other large like predatory insects. Our most commonly sold products are the wasps and the mites. They attack a range of pests from whitefly to aphids, to shorefly, fungus gnat, spider mite, and all kinds of other common crop pests that you might see. Some of my favorite little guys though are the beetles. Pictured on the slide is cryptobug, or is our trade name. The Latin name is the cryptolaemus. That is your mealybug destroyer. I just think they're really cool and cute little bug. We also sell macro or microbios. These are your like entomopathogenic fungi, as well as microflora and trianum, which are plant growth regulators, or not plant growth regulators, like supplements. So the microflora and the trianum have like symbiotic relationship with plants, especially the roots, and they can help protect against pathogens and help bolster the plant to take up more nutrients and just be overall more healthy. Um, Pictured in the bottom, we have our nematode products. These guys are really cool. They infect a super large host range, and they can be applied foliarly or through the soil. This is one of the first lines of defense in a lot of crops, especially leafy greens. And yeah, they're just a really great staple in the biocontrol world. Okay, and so now I am to the point of this whole Tech Tuesday talk. Now that you have a little bit of background on like what Koppert does and what we sell, I'll dive into our technology that helps us decide what products are best for you and how best to implement them in your crop. So starting off with the products that would help you implement them into your crop. We have our like mini airbug and airbug. So you can see those are the handheld devices and the handheld devices you see there. So you're actually able to dump products, living products into those. and they use a fan system to blow them out over a crop to places where you might not be able to reach to apply insects. And they have, yeah, the ability to get those insects out without damaging your product. So that's very helpful um, for growers who have like huge beds where they can't like individually shake and apply insects. And then the tractor photo you see there, that's our Natutech Drive. So it has dispensers pointed directly downwards into those rows of berries, is what's shown in the photo. So you get a direct application of the product um, right onto those rows. And so now moving on to what products, how do you know what to actually apply? How do you know what to use? Um, that that is figured out through scouting. Scouting is very important. It's the first thing that you should do when you're deciding to implement an IPM program. If you don't know what you have in your crop, how are you going to properly deal with it? So scouting is very important, and some of the technology that we use for that are Natutech Scout and our IPM Scout. Um, you can do scouting the old-fashioned way. I still do it the old-fashioned way, just walking through the crop, looking, taking photos, seeing what's out there, making notes. But our Natutech Scout is super helpful place for all of that data to go. So on this next slide, I'll show you an example of what that can look like. So here is an example of a heat map. This might be kind of overwhelming at first look, but right here you are seeing the presence of a pest, and it goes from green, which is a low, like very low presence, to yellow, to orange, to red, which is very high presence. And so you can see how many rows are present in this greenhouse. And this is where something like Natutech Scout comes in very handy. If you were just trying to do all of this by hand and then regurgitating those numbers into Excel, there's a huge gap or a huge opportunity for human error when trying to like put those numbers in. And also that's just a lot of time and labor. What Natutech Scout allows you to do is take your mobile device into the greenhouse, and as you're doing your scouting, you're marking where you see presence of this pest and at what rate or like intensity is the word I'm looking for. And that information, that data goes directly to your desktop account, and then it automatically is loaded up into this heat map. So it takes out the process of entering in numbers, of drawing up equations, of creating maps and graphs, does it all for you, which is super helpful. And another really nice thing about it is all of my clients who use this, I'm able to access their data. And so we can join a phone call or a Teams meeting and kind of talk about what's going on, and I can actually see and therefore consult better. Um, I also really love the graphs that Natutech Scout puts out. So this is a graph of whitefly development over a couple weeks. And you can overlay the different compartments you may have, and you can overlay your beneficial insects. So here I don't actually show beneficial insect over this, but it's always really nice when you can create a graph that way, and you can see the pests go up, and then the introduction of the beneficial, the pest starts to go down as the beneficial population goes up. So these are super helpful. Excuse me. All of this data can be looked back on over the years as you collect it, which is super helpful as an IPM manager or a grower to know what was going on in the previous seasons and previous years so that you can prepare for what is coming next. So Natutech Scout, we typically use this indoors. We are still beta testing for outdoor usage right now. But hopefully we get there pretty soon. Another thing that we are developing within Natutech Scout and testing quite a bit. I'm going to go back a couple slides here. Is our automatic sticky card counter. So you can see that photo of a person taking a photo of the horror card. So those cards you can hang up in your crop to catch insects. They're very sticky. The insects are attracted to the yellow reflected light that that card emits. And it's another great way of scouting. It's a lot more efficient than walking through your crop and scouting by hand, which is always still really good to do. Don't get me wrong. But with this sticky card counter, you can take a photo of that card and the algorithm will count how many insects are on that card. Right now, we have it working for whitefly, which in tomato greenhouses, if you're familiar, or even like roses or other crops, whitefly can get pretty abundant. So the sticky guard counter eliminates quite a bit of labor time trying to count individually all the little bugs that stick onto those cards. And that all that data is automatically put into your Natotech Scout and then graphed and mapped from there. We're getting ready to launch the more insect algorithms. So hopefully we have thrips and shorefly out very soon. But right now our clients are successfully using the whitefly counter and really enjoying it. So for growers who are growing outdoors, we have Koppert IPM. Koppert IPM was our original scouting platform. Natotech has been like the improved version, but since we don't yet have Natotech running 100% for outdoor growers, we still use our Koppert IPM app. It looks very similar to Natotech Scout. It works very similar to Natotech Scout, but the GPS location when you're scouting on your mobile device works quite a bit better for IPM. And so that's the part that we're still developing for Natotech. So if you're an outdoor grower and you're interested in using a scouting platform, this would be the one for you. And yeah, here's an example of a heat map. It's color coded with the different pests. And this is what a graph would look like if you were using IPM Scout. And here, this is a view of over a year's worth of data. And this would be great to look back on if you were like a new hire IPM manager, just to kind of see the trends over the years and the seasons. And another great piece of technology that I use all the time and that my clients use all the time is the side effects guide. So once you scouted, you know what's in your crop and you're ready to use bios. If you feel the need to still use any sort of chemical pesticide, I and my teammates recommend definitely going and consulting the side effects guide or one of us consultants beforehand. The side effects guide provides you information on how damaging or non-damaging chemical pesticides can be to our individual products. So as you can see on the left-hand picture, we have our trade names for those products that you can search by or Latin name. If you're not using our products, this is still accessible to anybody. And you plug in that data and you plug in your agent, your chemical agent that you want to use, and it shows you how that will be affected. So as an example, I've plugged in Komani, Aphides komani aureus, which is your minute pirate bug, and Persimolis, which is your spider mite predator. And I plugged in imidacloprid, which is, I felt like a pretty well-known gnarly chemical. And so it shows you the different levels that those different life stages are affected. And there's also a really nice legend available to tell you what all of those numbers mean, what all of the symbols mean. Yeah, so if you're ever in a pinch and you need to know like quick, how is this going to affect my bios? I definitely recommend the side effects guide. Unfortunately, there's not information on every single chemical out there. for every single beneficial insect available. But it's a pretty wide range of information that we do have. And I recommend if you are interested in using this and there's an insect that's not available, or that doesn't have data available, default to like using a bumblebee or a wasp and go from there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, it makes
Okay,
sense.
so that is kind of the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
If anyone has any questions, feel free to either unmute yourself, or if you put them in the chat, then I can read them out loud and answer them. But I did just want to shout out the Koppert website in general. It's such even if you don't download any app, any tool, you can go on their website, type in the crop that you're struggling with, and it will come up with all kinds of solutions, whether that be natural predators or just a product that can help with what you're dealing with. So yeah, it's
Yes,
great.
Danny, thank you. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Definitely the Koppert website is a resource in itself. And what you can also find on the Koppert website, we have a map now for you to locate a consultant near you. And our email addresses are available. So if you ever have any questions, we are willing to chat.
Hey guys,
Awesome.
this is David Neville.
Hey, David, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. As a new grower, really helpful to kind of get my head around what's kind of out there available bio-wise. One question is, and this is probably a kind of a complex deal with multiple facets, but if you use, say you're growing tomato, and this is all indoors. Say you're growing tomatoes and you need some pollinators like bumblebees, but you also have some pests on some lettuce that you need to kind of parasitic wasp or whatever. Do those coexist? Those two things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Those two examples, yes, they can. There are some insects that cannot coexist, but those typically are the predatory mites, which if you're working with a consultant, we will definitely let you know which ones don't coexist, but most of our products, you are able to use them together. Bees are able to be used with any biological product.
Awesome. Shanna Johnson asked, cost effective compared to sprays?
Yes, that is a really good question. And I, from personal experience, can say yes, especially for large greenhouses. It is biological control can be a pretty large upfront investment, especially if you're using like preventative methods, which are highly recommended, establishing a biological in your crop before you really have a pest. But the way that they kind of become cost effective in the grand scheme of things is when you decide to use chemicals rather than biological control, you get stuck in a spray cycle. Insects are becoming more and more resistant more quickly to chemical pesticides. And when you are basically curating a population inside of a greenhouse, that cycle becomes harder and harder every season that you grow. So say you spray a chemical and you kill 90%, well, 10% of those insects that are more resistant to that chemical are going to repopulate your greenhouse. And then you have to spray something harsher, something different. And before you know it, nothing's working. So, and you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on chemicals. So, yes, I believe that it is financially feasible if it is done correctly.
And what is the typical cost of a consultation? Like if someone like you were to just come either virtually or in person?
Consultation is free. I don't make commission. and you don't pay for our consulting.
Awesome. At what kind of size or scale would you recommend for folks to even like get started on one of the apps like the Natitech Scout or the Koppert IPM? Like at what scale is it relevant beyond just the old fashioned walking through your greenhouse or whatever field?
I say any scale, small or large, it doesn't matter. I personally am not an Excel wizard. I'm not very good at making graphs and maps. So even if I had just like less than an acre, of plants, and I wanted to keep track and graph and map out, what pests were going on in my garden or my small grow, I would definitely use it. Personally, I really enjoy using Natitech Scout. It's super user friendly, very easy to create a map, and upload with the pests that you have in your area.
Awesome. Trevor has a question about pollinators. He asks, can I use the Bombus impatiens in a semi-enclosed high tunnel? Will they stick around?
Yes. Yes, you can, and yes, they will stick around. Yeah, so the cool thing about bumblebees versus honeybees is bumblebees, we like to say they're a little bit dumber than honeybees. Honeybees are super high level communicators with each other. They're always talking, they're always looking for something better. But bumblebees, they have a range outside of their hive. They make a very linear map and they forage that map. They don't really try to find better food sources like honeybees do. So they will stick around. And they don't have that like swarming, um, they don't have that swarming mentality, I guess, as much as honeybees do. Every once in a while, if it's really hot, we do see bumblebees trying to find somewhere cooler to build their brood. But typically they stay right in those little hive boxes that we ship out.
Awesome. Shayna has another couple of questions. She asks, do these insects slash nematodes have to be re-released yearly or just adjust according to kind of the level of problems?
Yeah. Okay. So it depends on what kind of system you're growing in. For example, if you have like a long-term ornamental crop, something like nematodes, or actually most biological products are able to establish pretty well, especially if you're not using chemicals or using very soft, low amounts of chemicals. These insects are able to establish in the environment for long periods of time. But for example, in a like baby leaf lettuce system where the crops are done in like 6 weeks or so, or even like faster than, or even longer than that. They do have to be reapplied just because that soil is being recycled so quickly. They can't establish in a system like that. So, but we do have plenty of growers who find biological control works very well in those systems, regardless of the reapplication.
And then how do you overwinter the bees inside a tunnel, or can you?
The bees, when we send them out, they come in a hive box that we've engineered, and it lasts for about 10 to 12 weeks in a crop. So most of the bumblebee's life cycle is very short compared to honeybees. Honeybees can live for like a queen can live for like 7 years, 5 to 7 years. But bumblebee's life cycle is much shorter, only about a year or so. And most of that happens in our warehouse. So when we select queens and start raising the brood, she's bred and hibernates for about, I think it's like 12 weeks. And then she builds her brood. And so by the time our client gets that developed brood with the workers, they only have about 12 weeks left before the queen starts to decline and they start making new queen cells. And at that point, they're not going to be pollinating anymore. So those bees, depending on your location and the laws of your state, can either be released or terminated.
Gotcha. Bees are just incredible.